For this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with limited trainings.
Hello and welcome to the Snowbrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most intelligent people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge onto you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a mountain guide, an Alaska Heli Ski guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of Snowbrains, and I just got back from British Columbia, where we executed our 7th Heli Inn backcountry hut trip. It snowed 2 feet while we were out there last week, and despite the record low snowpack, the skiing was phenomenal. I'm always anxious about these trips because I hate having anything scheduled, but they've always worked out. I'm 7 for 7 on these hut trips having excellent snow. Pillows, cliffs, tree skiing, chutes, weird food, good friends, naked sauna, and pooing in the outhouse 50 yards away from the hut make these trips beyond unique. Thanks again, BC. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Club Med. Are you ready for an unforgettable ski getaway that takes care of everything? And I mean everything. Head to one of Club Med's mountain resorts where you can experience the thrill of the slopes without worrying about a thing. With their all-inclusive packages, you'll get all your lift tickets, ski passes, ski and snowboard lessons for all ages and ski levels, delicious meals, exciting après-ski activities, and even childcare for the kids, all included in the price. So you can focus on what matters most, carving perfect turns and enjoying the breathtaking views. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to book your ski escape today. My guest today is Kevin Quinn. Kevin is the founder of Points North Heli in Cordova, Alaska. He's been a heli ski guide for over 20 years. Kevin is an avid STOL and STOL Drag small plane pilot. He's also played professional hockey for a while. Kevin is a myriad of other things and certification as well, and I'll just rattle off a few. He's an EMT, he's a WFR, he's a Werks high-angle rescue technician, American Alpine Institute of Heli Ski Guide Level 3 Avalanche certified, president of the Heli Ski US for 10 years, U.S. Heli Ski Association Level 3 Mechanized Ski Guide, Butte County Sheriffs Dept certified in helicopter short haul rescue, all mountain ski pro certification, P.S.I.A. Instructor Level 3, USSA Race Coach Level 2, USHGA Certified Paraglide Pilot, USPA Certified Skydiver, Swiftwater Rescue Technician, Licensed Big Game Guide, State of Alaska, American Technical Rescue Institute Ropes and Rigging for Rescue, Ropeworks Industrial Rigging for Helicopter Ski Guide, Department of Transportation FAA Commercial Instrument Rated Pilot, and even a CrossFit Level 2 trainer. This dude has done it all. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. How are you, man?
Hey, Miles, how are you, buddy? Nice to see you. Happy 300 ski days, I think.
Oh my gosh, today's 299. So yeah, I was just mentioning before the show, I'm going to do Suicide Shoot on Mount Superior tomorrow with the legendary Andrew McLean, who we both know.
Funny
for day 300. For day 300. So I'm really pumped, man. Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. When did you ski last?
I skied today. Skied Alpine today.
Oh, nice. How was it?
Yeah, it's getting better every day, and thanks we have all that snowmaking, right? So the terrain is expanding I should say it's getting wider every day.
I like that.
And so, you don't want to give away the secret, but you get there early. It's pretty good for the first 2-3 hours.
Yeah, when it's actually groomed before it gets scraped down a bit. I noticed that here in Park City too.
Down and just lots, everybody's got to come out and get their time, right? So, it just gets a lot busier.
That makes sense. Yeah, before the crowd is the key. Sweet, man. Well, today I really want to dig into your very impressive heli ski and STOL pilot careers. You're kind of like this dual personality. Most people just get one, but you got two. And I shouldn't even say two. There's more than two.
I have double personalities.
You must, man, because I guess there's some relatability, but in the way I see the world, they're very different. So if you don't mind, would you tell us your quick and dirty 3-minute life story? And if you go over 3 minutes, that's fine. We want to hear the story.
Life story, I don't know, just living the dream, I guess. Born and raised, born in Newport Beach, Southern California. Hoag Hospital,
Nice.
Glen was sort of Newport to Laguna. Moved to Alaska when I was 6 months old. I've lived in Alaska my entire life, literally. Grew up there, went to elementary school, junior high, high school, started playing hockey at a very young age, started ski racing at a very young age, had this hockey skiing in my life forever. Talking about flying aspect, my pops, he was a pilot, and growing up at Lake Hood, largest seaplane base in the world there, just out of Anchorage. And so being around airplanes and having airplanes growing up as a kid, it was sort of just what I was exposed to. But going back to now, coming out of high school, I'm a quintessential high school dropout. I questioned authority, thought I was smarter than all of my teachers. And I was this arrogant kid that dropped out. My dad said, I'm not raising a dropout, made me take my GED. Next thing you know, I'm going to the School of Life, but really going on to play hockey. And
nice.
At that point in time, I was going to chase this hockey dream. And I had a stint where I sort of went back and forth between, now I'm playing hockey this season, okay, I'm not because I got a bad shoulder. I'm going skiing. And so now I'm coaching skiing in South Lake Tahoe for the Heavenly Ski Foundation and going through all my P.S.I.A credentials. And so I had 2-3 years off of hockey, then went back into hockey after I obtained my ski credentials, went all the way through. Then it was a full cert. Now it's your level 3, your P.S.I.A level 3. So I've been involved with P.S.I.A now for almost 30 years with ski education and whatnot. I've been sort of an educator my whole life as we go, but ended up playing hockey, backing up now for a number of years, ended up playing what you'd consider AA, AAA, professional level hockey, bus leagues. I never called myself a tough guy, but in order to find my role, I was an adrenaline junkie. I loved fighting and just the whole energy of the atmosphere in the arena. I mean, you can feel it in your bones and you get your team fired up. And I go back, sit on the bench, pull my teeth out and wait for the next guy. And, that gets old. City after city, people can say all the time they're from certain cities and or provinces within Canada. And I can relate. I've been there. People must think, oh, this guy's so full of crap. He's been everywhere. But hockey literally has taken me everywhere throughout our country, and then North America, really Canada as well, playing in all these various places in both the AA, which is the ECHL, which is also, we have a team coming to South Shore.
Nice.
Now, that Tim Tebow owns, I just saw.
Really?
And then playing AAA hockey, which is back and forth between the American League, International Hockey League. But my mainstay was what you consider AA hockey in the ECHL, and bouncing around, fighting all the time. And bouncing back when I was done playing hockey, I'm skiing and doing that whole thing. And I thought, boy, I could start a heli ski operation. And here we are 27 years later as a heli ski operator. And there's so much to cram in between all that.
Holy shit. And we're going to do our best to try to unpack some of that. But I guess the first question is, how old were you when you started Points North?
27 years old.
Jeez, you were a baby.
Yeah, 27 years. I was looking at some of my squad passes because we all hang them like Christmas ornaments, right? And I have these this old pass. I have hair down to here. I grew it long, and
I love it.
I'm starting a heli ski operation. We were all skiing in Valdez, and one thing led to another. I was on a trip with Rob and Eric Delorier, with Dean Cummings of all in his first year in business. And myself, Jason Mack, and Jen Berg, who was a teenager at that point. We were all sponsored by Olin Skis.
Oh, wow.
We were doing a thing for Straight Up Films, I believe it was, Eric Delorier's company. And so that was one of my first experiences in Valdez. My first heli ski trip was the season prior to that in Juneau with Bruce Griggs and Sean Dog. I commercial fished with Sean Dog, who was now Alaska heli skiing. And so there's a whole bunch of routes there. And one thing led to another. The next year in Valdez, I thought, I'm going to go down to Cordova. I rented a float plane, flew down to Cordova, and started flying around looking, going, oh my God, this is incredible. Went to Cordova that summer and flew around. And funny story, J Mac and I, and we did a number of trips. I think Tom Ways and Lel. There's a whole bunch of us that were flying around in planes,
legends,
looking at this terrain that only few had seen, because back in those days it was if you were a Hatchet and a Coombs, you were going as far as you could. You go to Copper, and for fuel restraints, you come back. Well, they'd only make a trip over there and then go back, and so they would ski these quintessential. Back then too, it was, if it didn't stick out on the horizon, it wasn't worth skiing.
And this is like 98. When is this?
97, 98.
Okay.
And so we fly by this peak in particular, and we're like, oh my God. And the whole airplane's doing everything it can not to crash because we're leaning so heavily on one side. And we start calling this thing, that's orgasmic peak. What are we going to call it? Well, later we come back and we figure out that it's the Sphinx. And the Sweeps
Oh,
is in our backyard, this crazy, which holds summer in the summertime back then. And it just, one thing led to the next. I started borrowing money, borrowing and stealing money. I owed more money than I'd ever had in my whole life.
how
And
far did you get in debt? Are you willing to share that?
yeah, I bet I was close to $500,000, $750,000
Oh,
in debt with interest.
did that
That's
affect your sleep and anything? How did you?
Miles, to this day, I still have PTSD over the whole thing.
Oh
You know,
my
so
God.
for the scenario of those first years, I was dream big, go for it, right? I'd never
Right.
do raised with like, if you're going to do something, do it right, do it 100%. Don't give anything 3/4 speed, you go full throttle. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, nobody had full page magazine ads in Powder Magazine, which damn near cost me my business because I spent so
Whoa.
much money on, hey, they only in America, right? You can tell them what you're going to do. They're going to give you credit. They trust you. I mean, I'm so grateful to Kevin back and all those guys that worked with me over those years back in those days, because I never, bankruptcy is easy, and I never believed in it. It's that old adage, as long as you keep giving somebody $1, just give them $1, they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
happy. Well, I mean, no doubt there got to a point where people weren't happy because I had multiple creditors from multiple different places, be it my helicopter
Whoa.
company my first year, all of the above. I signed contracts. I didn't even have a clue what I was doing. But long story short, you get to that point where you've got creditors coming down the road wanting to levy your accounts. And I mean, that
Ooh,
was a 2-year nightmare in itself. But I
scary.
finally, you want stories. I was laying in bed one night and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to come out of this. Oh, I think, and I saw a thing for Squaw Valley passes. Get your
Mm-hmm.
pass on. So I'm like, why can't I create a pass? Gold pass. You probably remember these.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, gold pass. Yeah, I can do a pass, 5-year, 10-year. I think I'll sell, 5-year for 50, 10-year for 75. What a deal. Well, the back end, you created all these little rules that, well, a gold passer, there's only one per aircraft, and I can put you with whoever. And so that's a
Okay.
little marketing side note for the sake. Okay, now going fast forward, I was able to generate a big portion of my debt with selling 10, 15 of these passes.
Smart.
Lee Doobie was a first pass.
I was just gonna say when I went to Points North, Lee Doobie was there, I think on his last year of it.
Yeah. And so there's a number of those folks, and even some close friends bought 5-year passes, Whitey and Choppers and those
Oh
guys.
yeah.
They were some of my early pass holders. Original seed money was Lel Tone and Glenn Polson, but
Really?
I was able to pay everybody back with interest, and I never
Amazing.
declared bankruptcy. So I'm proud of that fact. That
You
was
should
a big
be.
thing. And now 27 years later, we took on a partnership, and I transition out. Both Jess and I can't leave Jess out because Jess runs the business still as far as booking and all. The new owners are running it.
Oh, so much work.
But it's just is still an integral part. I'm more of the conscious now of the business, and we transition out in 2025. But to be a heli ski operator for 27 years and go from that to this point to where we're very lucky, we're very fortunate, and we get to do a lot of different things now, and we're lucky.
Points North Heli, I'm reading, is the largest heli ski operation in the US.
No, I used to say that. It was for a long time because,
Uh-huh.
Valdez Heli Ski Guys just bought Rendezvous. And so they're expanding
Yeah.
now.
Oh my
They're going to have a
gosh.
whole bunch. So that's a big operation. CPG's always been sort of like our sister. But Points North, when we were the first really running 3 machines solid for a long, long time. And then
Wow.
in April, we'd have 4 and 5 machines, depending on film crews and whatnot. And not to mention doing the 48 guests a week, every single week, day in, day out for 10 people.
48.
Yep, big numbers, 12 groups, 4 groups per aircraft and fuel caches, and it was huge for a long, long time. And
How many
so
weeks a year?
9 to 10 weeks, it varied each year.
Okay. Okay, nice.
It was a big deal. It turned a lot of people on to skiing. We got some quality skiing. Now I'm a snob where, I'm powder skier, man.
Yeah. That's so how did you build your guide team? And then how did you build trust within that guide team?
That's a really good question, Miles, because I grew up on the notion I trust no one. And I try to instill that even in my kids. Trust no one. Believe in them, bring them in, trust no one. But I trusted that early season that we had, that first group of guides, which to this day are some of the best ever. And even up to what we have now, the guides that we have for Points North, we've had 4 different crews, really. The first crew, myself and J Mac and Aaron Martin and Waze and Lel and Jim Barnes.
Alzy.
Jamie Scheckman working the front office.
No way, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Miles D was my fueler, and
No way.
famous Red Bull Miles. I mean, we lived with
Yeah.
Miles. Jimbo Fritz, who's been there from start to finish. I mean, we had a crew that was just a cast of all stars, and so now Lel's gone on to where she's probably one of the most famous female women ski guides, heli ski guides in the world, and
Yep.
all credits due to what all of her accolades. And then you got J Mac, who's like quintessential Squaw Valley ski patroller that
Legend.
is just an awesome family. His family's godparents to my children, and it just goes on and on. Waze and Lel and Aaron Martin, we always remember, of course, Big Bird and doing all that stuff. And of course, that's when Sig and that whole crew, Justin Roach, showed up that very first year, and Sig produced Heart and Soul, and Jeff Holden shows up midway through the year, and we're like, who's this character? Oh, he just won the World Extreme contest.
He went off.
And he went off full support, which was the next year. We measured. We called Gambler at home because he was our base jumper. He's like, we could throw a rock as 4.5 seconds. He did all this crazy math. Like, that's 155 feet. And where you can see the picture that made the cover of Powder Magazine.
Is that Kyoki's picture? That picture's
That
amazing.
was a Dave Nagel picture.
Dave Nagel.
It's hanging on my wall back behind me here.
Whoa.
There's nothing like it. But those were the days of just so much craziness, and then getting involved with Warren Miller and having,
Let's jump into that. Like, because Warren Miller, because I don't know, to me, it seemed like fuel in the fire, but I'm seeing it from such an outside perspective. How does that work? Like, I guess the first question is, tell us, I think you did 17 Warren Miller movies. So, just tell us how that started.
I mean, so Warren Miller and Assess, we grew up going to, high school, West High School there in Anchorage, watching Warren sit in his little booth, and we're all making paper airplanes, in high school, throwing paper airplanes off the balcony there to watch this Warren Miller celebration of winter. This is long before TGR, Matchstick, and stump films came even 10 years after that. But Warren Miller in itself, this was the gender when we started Points North. The TGR and Matchstick had just started. TGR Matchstick pretty much started, same time. TGR, I believe, is just a little bit earlier. Same as Points North, we were all that 1998 timeframe for TGR P&H. Matchstick, I think, was the year after.
Wow.
Winters would be crushing me, right? He'd be giving me a hard time if that's not factual, but I think Matchstick came a year later. But, of course, I'm living in this house sort of as a vagabond, and you've got Kreitler in the house and Shane downstairs and Miles in a basement, and climbing wall. And I'm living on the couch of this house with Jimbo, who runs the house, couch house, or the big house, not the couch house. The bungee house there on Tiger Tail, and one
in
thing
Olympic Valley,
the ski bum MC, you remember him? And we're all we're Squaw Valley, whatevers, living the daily dream. And I'm starting a heli ski operation, and I guess now I fast forward to, because that was our crew. I fast forward, now I'm living with Jeff McKittrick in Alpine while our house burned down.
No way.
And now I put up this big poster, in that house. Hey, I'm starting a heli ski operation. Well, now all of a sudden your friends, we're all working at Humpty's, your friends are now starting to support this idea that they roll their eyes like, yeah, sure, but hey, we're going to support it. Well, then it was all segments were photo incentive, film incentive with travel budge for these big athletes. Well, Kent's like, hey, I want to go to Alaska and see my buddy Quinner and go film at his operation. And so it just started to compile that way. Tom Day was then filmmaker for Hatchets, but working.
Oh, wow.
And we want Tom. Tom wants to come shoot in Alaska. We want to go see Kevin and Jess. And so that whole thing sort of evolved to where now 17 years in Warren Miller, it's documented my life, sort of the history of Points North. I've had the opportunity to be with the best of the best, be it, Marco to Darren, or to Kreitler, to Seth Morrison, McGovern. I watched McGovern crash 1,800 feet down a face. That was like next level. Is that the
famous McGoverning quote?
Yeah.
He's McGoverning.
I love Govey. So there's just so much history with it. It's incredible.
It's impressive, man. And like you said, if you have your whole life documented, even like your kids growing up, all of it, it's very cool. Well, let's transition into a fun question. So what is the big five of the Chugach? What is that?
Big five of the Chugach: pontoon, tusk, meteorite, tension center, Hillbilly Bob, baby.
Okay. Because I actually don't even know the five. I know two or three of them.
You could throw a whole bunch of others in that whole, I mean, like there's a whole bunch, Ocean View, and I mean, Rhino's Tusk, I mean, there's so many.
And have you skied them all?
I've skied all of them.
Yes. So tell us some stories of skiing those, or maybe your first time skiing one of them. Or...
I can't tell a lie. I haven't skied Hillbilly Bob, and I sit here and think about it. It's the one that I haven't skied that sits.
And where is? I don't know. Where the hell is that?
And I haven't skied Cordova Peak either, but that line doesn't go in anymore. I mean, that's a line that's right there in that whole new Forest Service. Tom Burt's the only one that's ever skied Cordova Peak, and you could put that in that big 5 just as easy.
Wow.
Sphinx, I mean, all those are the biggies.
Well, tell us about your story. Tell us a story about skiing one or two.
Times.
No
Pontoon's
way.
probably that quintessential peak. It separates east and west. You know, it separates Thompson Pass to Cordova. We fly 15 minutes one way, 18 minutes to the northwest. They fly 18 minutes, you know, southeasterly. We run into each other on Pontoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pontoon's sort of that center peak. Come back around the corner and you got Ocean View sticking out there. That's another big one. You fly past Pontoon up the Woodworth and down that drainage. You got Meteorite sitting up on that top prow. I mean, who doesn't want to ski that thing? I'm assuming you've probably skied that being over there.
That's the only one I've skied.
Yeah, looking down that side. And of course, you always go out around the rocks. Workman, every time I see Doug Workman, he's posting pictures of his crew rapping down through the middle of the rock in the choke.
Whoa.
They stack under the rock and go.
That makes sense.
Of course, that one probably freaks me out more than any because every year somebody posts climatic avalanche on that thing that goes to the valley.
Last year.
Yeah, so that one scares me.
Sphinx
is like the quintessential, it sticks out. You can see Sphinx from Valdez when you're high enough. It's that quintessential diamond in the distance. I mean, it's a perfect, all forces lead to the Sphinx. It's like magnetic.
And what are the stats on the Sphinx? Steepness, length?
55 degrees, 57 right at the top for the first 300 feet for 1,800 feet sustained off camber.
How do you drop into that?
Come up around the top and then...
But I mean, like mentally, like how do you have the confidence?
We used to air into that thing back in the day when it was so good and we've skied it multiple times. You go down the north side and then take a left turn and air into it. Dean Conway, all 3 sides with famous big wave surfer Ethan Powell and Troy Lotus. His little son Maddox Lotus is big wave pipe surfer right now. But they skied all 3 sides of the Chugach, and Ethan Powell and Lotus were famous back in the day of renting helicopters and spending big money and going everywhere they wanted in Hughes 500 with us at P&H with Conway. And Conway would come back with his, tongue out the side of his mouth and worn out. Cause, it's fun, as you know, being a ski guide, it's fun going and skiing those peaks. But as a ski guide, your mindset transitions to lifeguard. And so you're not only responsible for yourself, but now you're responsible for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And usually that somebody else has seen one too many movies. They're firing on all cylinders. They're seething for it, but they don't really understand. Just as an example, you get a new guy in the back of the helicopter. He's like, oh, I want to ski this. I want to jump off that. And you're like, that's like 300 feet right there.
Yeah.
They don't understand scale.
No, that 20-footer is actually 100 feet.
yeah, literally. So, I've been really great. I've been fortunate to be able to ski a big portion of the Chugach, both Valdez and Cordova. We started Points North 2, I think, in our 6th or 7th season, where Majestic flies now.
I didn't know that.
We flew there for 4 days and named a whole bunch of stuff up that Powell, Tar, and Sylvester Glacier area, and then skied from from that area where Majestic is up there, Sheep Mountain area, and flew up Sylvester, down Tar, down the Brontosaurus into the Valdez Glacier, skied all the way, and then loaded up, skied around Valdez, and skied to Cordova. So we've done that crossing. I've always wanted to do the crossing from Majestic now to CPG, do that addition.
Oh, yeah.
So you do that whole transcontinental crossing that you got heli skiing the whole way.
And you're doing that in one day?
Oh, we did that in multiple days.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Because that whole one day, couple days you're around where Majestic is now, up that Sheep Mountainside, way northern Chugach.
Yeah.
And the next day you get to Valdez as sort of a travel day, ski around Valdez. And of course, now you got to focus on the weather too. Good weather pattern is a big deal to get all that. And then you go from Valdez to Cordova.
Wow, unreal. I was hearing, you made me think of, there's a story of how Pontoon Peak got its name. Do you know that story?
I do know that story. There's a variation that I was called out on by, I believe it was by Jerry Hance.
I've skied with Jerry.
So Jerry claims he skied it first.
Okay. Yeah, he told me that too.
Actual data, but whenever Jerry, I mean, I was in Davenport's 50 greatest descents. And in that book, we talk about how we skied pontoon. It's my peak. I've skied it so many times, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, Trevor and Eric took that thing to top up there, riding Chet Simmons pontoons on the outside. And there's a famous photo.
But tell it. Explain that better, because our listeners won't understand.
Well, so they're in a Jet Ranger helicopter with pontoons, pontoons that you can land in with water. And so they flew that pontoon ship to the top of pontoon, and they were sitting on the outside of this pontoon to the top.
Not strapped on.
Well, they're carrying it cowboy style.
Okay.
That's the legend of how pontoon was named. And supposedly it went forever about how they got it. But now as folklore goes even further, they'd been drinking. It took them a while to get up. And Jerry Hance got up early and screwed up and skied it first. And
whoa.
I mean, I just, who knows? That's all that. It's just kind of like my favorite ski movie. So many favorite ski movies, but I love Carving the White rap films where Eric or Trevor Peterson's sitting up on top of, no, it's Kirk Jensen sitting on top of Meteorite for the first descent.
Wow.
And if you haven't seen it, you've got to rent Carving the White. You got to watch where, Mark Kozad talks about a 5,000 foot unclaimed ski line. And they got up early, but Trevor didn't get up. And Kirk, again, he had a drinking night. And Kirk got on the helicopter, went, and Kirk Jensen's standing on top of Meteorite in this crystal, this air when it's very crystallized. And the helicopter comes up over, and it's the entire Chugach. And now, knowing what we know, what we're looking at, you're looking back in Browns, and you're looking back towards Cordova, and it's just like you're looking at Cathedral Peak there on the right, and it's, oh my God, look at this place. But he drops in and skis Meteorite, and I'm like,
unreal.
I'll never forget that moment.
I am so curious. I'd love to ski pontoon one day. Is it do you ski all the way down to the glacier, to the valley floor?
Yeah, I skied it to the glacier all the way to the valley floor, and then down around the corner to what we call Toontown. And skied it usually right to middle. So it's pontoon, cartoon, and then Toontown, the long face. That long face down here, those are all like 1,500 foot shots. They incrementally grow. Cartoon being that false peak, which is about 2,800. And then you get, 40, 42, 4,300 top to bottom on pontoon down that coulee. But that coulee in recent years has been receding where that snow gets more thin and thin, where it's been an air out of the bottom. Cummings is famous for jumping that big rock to the right and breaking his leg, I believe, off that cliff.
God damn.
At the bottom of pontoon. And then, of course, the unskied side, which has never, ever still been skied. But there's a ski line on it. It's the West Aspect miles of
terrifying.
Of pontoon. We've been staring at that West Aspect for years. And I'm getting too old to do that. But, it's going to get skied by somebody. That West Aspect there's a line that goes sort of like from midnight to 4 o'clock into a gut. And it goes.
Whoa, man. Terrifying. What a beast that thing is. Well, pontoon, man, because I see it from the helicopter when we're flying around in the Forest Service. And
you got to get your guide staff up there. We took 15 people up there one night. I
really want to go, man. Yeah, so I'm working on Gabe. I'm chipping away. I'm actually writing some proposals right now to try to get some sponsors involved, and maybe how can we get a guide day? Just one. Just one day. Let's go ski a couple of things.
I came home that day and gave a fire drill, and we fired 3 helicopters and put 3 helicopters on top of pontoon with our whole team.
No way.
So it goes back to where that night we were losing daylight, and we actually got picked up on the bench, which is the top of cartoon.
I'm okay with that. Jeez, that's plenty for me.
Upper face and then down, yeah.
That's plenty. That's why I was asking if it's normal to ski all the way down, or if you get a pickup somewhere.
Normally go T to B.
Yeah, I mean that's the dream, right?
That little couloir. That couloir is an awesome ski.
So what are you saying? There's a big open face, is the way I think of it, and then it funnels into a chute, huh?
It does, yeah. It's the big open face, and then you come down. You go skiers right, lookers left, out onto the bench, which is sort of like the top of cartoon. If you were to ski that next draw, but if you didn't cut that hard, skiers going to your skiers right bench, you go fall line into that gut, and there's that big draw.
Whoa. So rewinding to Warren Miller, because you started telling the story about Warren Miller, but I guess my question is, how do you think Warren Miller helped Points North Heli? Because it sounds like it was around that same time when you started selling the gold tickets, the gold passes.
Put it on the map. The gold passes in itself was a marketing idea for this. Obviously, I needed the money, but it also was I could put whoever on that aircraft, and so they didn't want to ski with just anybody. They ended up telling their friends and creating their own groups. Hey, we're going here. I got a pass. So now they've created their own groups. So in a sense, they're marketers telling everybody and their brother they got these passes. Come to Alaska.
Yeah.
Warren Miller in particular. I mean, you've seen those audiences. And the shelf life of a Warren Miller is about 25 years, they say.
Wow.
And so I still to this day go all over and see a Warren Miller play. I'm like, oh, there's that segment from 2000.
Oh yeah.
With whoever, the Chris brothers, for lack, they. And we ski Sphinx. Kreitler, myself, and Micah have a day on Sphinx where we do 5 laps on that thing.
No shit.
And, that was highlight. That was a highlight for us, and it's in the new Warren Miller. I heard it's out right now.
Oh no! And which of the Chugach Big Five, or the best lines? Which one's the gnarliest? Like, which one scares you the most?
The scariest, I think, is Meteorite.
And why? Because of the climax avalanches.
Slide, yeah.
Yeah. And then which one
doesn't scare me so much because there's a lot of outs. I feel like when you're on slope, there's a lot of outs. You're definitely that down the ridge. I don't feel that ridge is. I don't feel like that's avalanche terrain. People would roll their eyes, think I'm crazy. But when you're there, you're on this knife edge ridge, and I feel safe on that knife edge ridge. You got one aspect, you got the other. Unless it's boiler proof, which I've skied pontoon with Whitey and choppers and others during. It was as hard as it came, and we were wishing we weren't. But I just feel safe on that prow. But once you get on that upper face can be burly because if it goes, you're going to go for a big ride. But again, you being a snow specialist, Miles, I mean, you can just look at the snow. People laugh. You can look at the snow and you can see little pieces that are sticking out, and you're like, I'm going to ski there and there because I don't think it's going to release. If it did there, it feels good. And then you get to very safe zones and it's good. So pontoon, I feel pretty comfortable. On Sphinx, I feel comfortable, but I've seen some big avalanches on Sphinx. I saw Ben Dolans. If you remember Ben Dolans, he was a tele skier. I saw him go upside down and backwards. You don't go right up left is what we'd say on Sphinx because Sphinx sits off camber where every right footer is sort of back uphill, left footer's fall line, right footer's back uphill. So Sphinx sits off camber and the way everything sloughs into that drainage. Drainages, as you know, are always hard and icy and just don't go right when you keep working your way left, fall leaf, right? For whatever reason, you point it out and he goes right to it and he's on telly, lost his heel and he went backwards, T to B. Airmail, the first time I thought we killed somebody. Airmail backwards, dead body saw. All I saw was the bottom of his boots airmailing onto the glacier. Tom Walklow down on the bottom, who's Squaw Valley Patrol. Tom Walklow, he's I'm in rescue, Quinter, I am in rescue. And Ben got up. He was good, but his ski had flicked off in the middle of like a really bad spot. And of course, being lifeguard, I went and retrieved this damn ski. But even crossing that drainage to this day, I cursed myself because I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to expose myself to it, but we did. And we got his ski, but he was lucky he lived that day. But that was a burly experience on Sphinx itself. That's intense. I want to take my kid down it.
Oh God, I'd love to ski that one. That's on my list. I lived with Tom Walklow in the legendary winter of 2011 in Squaw Valley.
Oh wow!
Yeah, great dude, man. I had a good time with him. Wow. So Warren Miller put you on the map. And when you say that, what was the actual effect there? Like what did putting you on the map do?
Well, you say putting us on the map, but it was the athletes that came too. I mean, Warren Miller brought us Westcott. And Westcott,
Seth,
Olympic gold medalist, right? Became one of our longtime friends. We gave him a lifetime pass holder. He started bringing some of these high-profile athletes. Warren Miller brought us Lindsey Jacobellis, of course, Kreitler and Micah. They were my buddies anyway. And it just, they brought us so much. I'd never met Reggie and Zach. Reggie and Zach came one year. So now all of a sudden you're introducing and hanging out with all of these athletes, be it Mark O'Sullivan, whoever coming and experiencing this place. Well, then they go home and they tell about it. And so it just started to, and you know better than anybody, just starting the business that you have in Squaw Valley, it's a great place to start a ski business if you have something that's going to work.
Absolutely.
And, look at Unofficial. Unofficial started in Squaw. Remember those guys?
Well, Snowbrains is a derivative of Unofficial, right? Like I would have never got into this business. So I'm very thankful to them because without them, I don't have Snow Brains, and Snow Brains is my retirement plan. I made money with my body my whole life until this.
Right. So you think about all the snow sport enthusiasts and ski businesses that have started in Squaw Valley. Something special about that place. I mean, and it's Palisades. I need to call it that, but it's forever in my heart, Squaw Valley, being, married there and burying some of my best friends there and spending my entire 30 some years at Squaw. I'm still, and I have that Squaw Valley, what I call Santa Cruz attitude a lot.
But what a special place. It lives in a very important place in my heart. Well, let's take one step back here. Actually, I want to do something kind of funny. So you appear to be really into certifications, and it's really impressive. So I have this list that is on the Points North Heli website, and it's 18 things. So I'm gonna try to rattle this off really quickly. So tell me if I miss anything, because I just think this is so interesting. Nobody is well certified as you, and you're so multifaceted. So I think this really put the explanation point.
Joe Royer, Ruby Mountains. 48 years is a mentor. And Joe, I remember Joe once telling me something along the lines, I can't remember verbatim, but he says, unless you have the credential, the certification, you're just somebody talking shop. You might have a lot of experience, but if you don't have that little piece of paper to support it, people just roll their eyes and look at you. But that little piece of paper, as you know, because you have a lot of those credentials, there's a lot of work that goes behind it. And so that's my school of, when I said earlier on, school life. I took my GED, but I went to the school life and learned from everything that I wanted to learn about. I became passionate about, dropped into it, and became it, lived it, breathed it, and went through that process of getting that certification, because I'm so into it.
Well, I'll rattle these off really quick. And I think, these do add up to like an Ivy League education. So you're emergency medical technician, wilderness first responder, rope works, high angle rescue technician certification, American Avalanche Institute Heli Ski Guide Level 3 Avalanche certified, president of the Heli Ski US for 10 years, U.S. Heli Ski Association Level 3 Mechanized Ski Guide, Butte County, I think it's Butte County, California, Sheriff's Department Certified in Helicopter Short Haul Rescue, All Mountain Ski Pro Certification, P.S.I.A. Instructor Level 3, which is really hard to do, USSA Race Coach Level 2, USHGA Certified Paraglide Pilot, oh my God, USPA Certified Skydiver, Swift Water Rescue Technician, Licensed Big Game Guide in Alaska, that's insane, American Technical Rescue Institute Ropes and Rigging for Rescue Certification, Rope Works Industrial Rigging for Helicopter Ski Guide, Department of Transportation FAA Commercial Instrument Rated Pilot, and you're also a Level 2 CrossFit trainer. And I think you just told me today you coach Pop Warner. What else did we miss?
Yeah, my Pop Warner team, Truckee U10 champions, man, snowball champions.
Yeah, that's what is U10? Under 10 years old?
U10 they're all 9 and 10-year-olds.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was the best. I mean, you talk about full contact war and full battles at that age. These kids, our job is to make sure they understood how to hit, how to take a hit, do it safely. And, if you can be somebody that's a motivator in a young kid's life like that, it's pretty cool. Change their life.
And the only thing I didn't mention is that you also were a pro hockey player, which you said at the beginning of the show. So let's dig into that for just a second, because my guess is, I've been reading a lot of books about mindfulness, and I just read a cool book called Range, and it's all about how specialists like Tiger Woods do happen, but it's actually better to have range, to have done a bunch of different things, because you're thinking outside of the box and outside of your specialty might lead to solutions that are breakthroughs in the industry that you might specialize in later. So you started with hockey, and so so you told us a little bit, but how did your pro hockey career, how does that happen?
I was fortunate to where I was an athlete. Growing up, I was an athlete. Just being around kids. You have kids that are, this will sound arrogant, but there's kids that have, they're good at sports, and there's kids that are really good at doing what they do that might not necessarily be sports. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say one's better than another. I was good at sport. I played football, baseball, basketball, hockey, skiing, swimming. I mean, I was always fortunate enough to be fairly okay at whatever I dabbled at. With hockey in particular, I realized that I was actually pretty good at it growing up at a young age, being, one of your leading scorers, being a captain on your team, being playing hockey year round. Growing up in Alaska, everybody had an outdoor rink in their backyard. Every elementary, junior high, and high school had at least one or two outdoor rinks. the snowplow would go down the street, you put your skate guards on, you skate down the street in your guards, and you go and you play at the rink until mom blows the whistle, and you come home for dinner. After dinner, you go back and do it again until it's time to go to bed. But that's sort of your life. And these kids that are from Alaska, there's a whole bunch of them right now that are in the National Hockey League because things haven't changed. There's a lot of hockey in Alaska, just like there is in Michigan, Minnesota, and places. Actually, a big hotbed in particular, Southern California, with the rollerblades they have available. But at any rate, playing hockey, I just my hockey life, when it got serious, I started going towards the ski life and backed away from the hockey life. And well, when you back away from a sport, if you're not doing it all the time, your skill set drops, right? And well, for me to be able to, I want to play hockey. Okay, I'm going to have to start fighting, because my skating ability and my stick handling and shooting ability isn't what it was once. And now if I really want to play, well, I'm going to have to start fighting a lot. And so now I'm fighting.
So it was a conscious decision. At what age?
I wanted to play. I was like, I'm big, man. I think I could play in the NHL. I'm big. I'm strong. I'm not afraid of it.
How tall and what's your weight?
Right now I'm 6'3", 225 on a good day, out of shape. Haven't been a CrossFit trainer for about 10 years.
Oh, sorry. Well, you should have said that.
But I try to do my best. I train my daughter like crazy. I still am very cognizant of the whole process, and I try to stay active.
But the bottom line, you were a big guy, even as a high schooler.
I was a big guy playing hockey, and so these little fast guys that are quick and agile are your goal scorers. And I was more of a third line mucker grinder, put me in front of the net, screen the goalie, and that turned into you're always in a scrum with someone, and I ended up being the guy who was always fighting all the time. And it was pretty cool to play here, even for our local AA team, the Reno Renegades, back 15, 20 years ago now, down here at the Reno. That's sort of where I finished my hockey career.
Wow.
For those guys, but again, fighting all the time. Some of our ski buddies are like, I remember watching you play in Reno, and then you're sitting in the stands the first period drinking beer because you get in a fight and get thrown out.
And what do they call the fighter on a team?
The meathead, the goon.
Yeah, I heard enforcer. I don't know anything about hockey, but I thought that was a great way. So, in mine, I read a little bit about it. So you kind of protect other players too, right?
Yeah.
So if you're most agile, if you're Sidney Crosby, is getting hit by somebody, then you go and fight that guy.
Make sure that the other team knows that that's not cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm you can afford to lose me, but we can't afford to lose you. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a whole bunch of me's. I mean, everybody and their brother's trying to come up, and those are the guys that are always fighting and trying to just make their way.
So you played hardcore in high school, and then after high school, you played professionally, AA, AAA, traveled all over in buses, which sounds kind of gnarly. How many years did you do that?
About 5 years.
Okay, so how many fights? How many broken noses? How many broken hands?
Nose has been put on the side of my face more times than I count. I got stitches here, stitches above my eyebrow. These teeth are fake. I used to have a retainer. I pulled it out.
How many teeth?
These two right here.
Just two. That's not bad for hockey.
Yeah, this whole one and this half. And I used to be able to have this front one. I could pull it out, and I had a big goatee, mustache, no tooth. You kind of look big black eyes, Game of intimidation.
Oh, absolutely. The only time I ever intimidated anybody in my whole life is I went short on a backflip at Sugar Bowl when I was like 22 years old. And I don't know if I broke my nose, but I hit it hard. I got two huge black eyes. And I ended up at a party that week, and somebody pissed me off, and I got in his face, and he just backed off right away. It's like, this is not the guy. This guy clearly fights, even though I didn't. It was just a crash. Wow, man. So broke your nose 4 times, couple of teeth. How many fights do you think?
Hockey, separated my shoulder, broke my collarbone, broke my ankle. But hockey was brutal on the body, more so than skiing. Skiing, I've just done 1 ACL.
That's it?
Yeah, just my right ACL. Jess has done 3. Today was Jessica's first ski day on her new ACL, new meniscus.
No, she blew her knee last year.
Yeah, doing the mountain guide program, second run of the day under Eagle's Nest, hit the KT Glacier and blew her knee out.
Oh, that's terrible. I did not know that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Or they're pushing all those big chunks off underneath top of KT.
Yep. And that's where they ended up. That's terrible. Guys, well, put in a good word for me. I want to get her on the podcast this year. She's a legend as well. Gosh. So, all right. We broken noses, broken everything. So I guess the last question is, how did your experience in hockey help you and later in life, in your heli ski guide and your heli operation and all the rest of your life? What did you learn in hockey that you translated?
I think all of it comes back and ties together with just being motivated to get something done. If you want to be something, you got to stay motivated and you got to immerse yourself in it. You got to do it. And if I wanted to play hockey, you're all in. There's no half in, or you're on the next bus home the next day. And you got to be all in. You got to get your mind ready for it. You have to have your body ready for it. And you're all in. And so much I try to teach my kids too. I mean, there's no 50%. You got to buy in. If you're going to be a heli ski guide, but if you're only halfway in, you're dangerous. You're dangerous in the mountains. If you're a pilot and you're only sort of part-time there, you're dangerous. If you're only flying once a month, there's a difference between currency and proficiency. And I challenge pilots in my aviation life to not accept currency, but strive for proficiency. There's a big difference. And to be proficient in anything, you need to be doing it all the time. And so, with hockey in particular, you're doing it all the time. And there's a mindset that is, it's a team sport, but individually, if you're not prepared, you're not going to succeed.
I like that. So yeah, that focus, that determination to be all in, and that's really served you well, obviously. Yeah. So we went through the hockey, we went through Points North, and then you have this whole other side to you that I think the people in the ski world don't know anything about. And then I think
aviation life.
Yeah, then I think the people probably your aviation life people don't know that you're a skier. So so I'll just start with the word STOL pilot. So what the hell is STOL?
STOL is short takeoff and landing. And these airplanes that we have that are built very, very high horsepower, very lightweight with cartoon-sized tires. These backcountry airplanes, bush pilots.
Give me a size for our listeners. How long and wide are they?
So these airplanes are small airplanes, 1,000 pounds, 32-foot wingspan. They're about 30 feet long in length. They can come in floats. They can come in big tires, which Tundra tires allow you to land in places that you can only imagine. Here locally in a sagebrush patch, you can land with these big cartoon-sized tires. Wow. And when you say short takeoff and landing, I mean, these aircraft can take off and land at 100, 150 feet. And so think about the access that we have. People don't understand the access that we have here in Northern California, Northern Nevada, but it's Mecca for off-airport flying. We go out and go arrowhead hunting, go snake hunting, go shoot the rifle, the pistols, go chase, go watch and check out all the wild horses, there's just so much, all the hot springs and just wild, remote Nevada. You get away from the concrete jungle of the city, get in your airplane, and these airplanes are similar to like pulling out your dune buggy in your garage and going for a burn in the backyard, except we're in the air getting away from everybody. And this is Mecca. But at any rate, I've been into aviation my whole life. And
so you've been places that just are extremely remote, that are nearby Lake Tahoe. I'm assuming you fly to Truckee. And tell us about that. Like, for example, like what's a place that you've been? Because I think about that all the time when I'm flying in a jet out of Reno and I see all that empty land and you can see rivers.
Sand Harbor.
Oh yeah.
Well, right above it's Marlette Lake.
Okay.
And right above Marlette Lake, there's a huge meadow. It's Nevada state land. There's a huge meadow up there, and we land in that big meadow overlooking Lake Tahoe.
Whoa!
There's tons of stuff on my Instagram, STOL Pilot, but STOL Pilot. But there's a photo. I've put 12 airplanes in this meadow, and it's all of Lake Tahoe at 9,000 feet.
Unbelievable, man. So because it's more like a helicopter in a way. If you can land it at 150 feet, you can really stick it in there.
It's interesting you say that, because for me in my backcountry flying life, there's a huge correlation between that and heli skiing. Heli skiing is, you sit in that front seat of the helicopter. We used to say back in the day, it's like, I'm going skiing, I just have to take these guys with me. where do I want to go? Of course, that transcended into a business. Like, where do you guys want to go? Well, they can tell you where they want to go, but you're still going to take them where you want to go. But now you're responsible for them. But that idea of sitting in that front seat and staring at a peak and identifying, okay, it goes from there to there. What are my hazards? What are my safe zones? I'm going to stop here. Okay, you piecemeal that. Well, with flying these backcountry airplanes, it's the same thing. You're flying around. You're like, oh, man, that goes. Oh, does that go? Okay, I can get in. Wonder if I can get out. Oh, man, if it looks smooth, it might be. If it looks rough, it is. Ooh. We're going to get down and do a pass. And so it's the same. We're backcountry pilots landing in these places that nobody in the history of mankind has ever landed an airplane. And documenting it to where now there's this huge I'm this social media influencer in my aviation life. I have some 100,000 followers on my Instagram
Wow.
and YouTube. And my best buddy Trent Palmer has 500,000 subscribers. He makes his whole living off his YouTube. And
Unreal.
we're these aviation influencers to where it's funny, Miles. We're walking through airports and pilots are like, "Oh, you guys are those guys that fly those airplanes."
Oh, no shit.
But the message is teaching people to do it safely, do it smart, and showing the back end behind, going back to what you said a little bit ago, the credentials, the training, your certifications, and again, challenging currency and striving for proficiency. I challenge people in skiing. I mean, just don't be like, I'm going to be that weekender. I'm going to go ski in the backcountry. It just snowed 4 feet. It looks good. I'm going to go do it. You don't do that. You know,
Yeah.
you might go do that to check the box and call yourself current, but man, you're probably going to go up there and get in an avalanche because you're not pretty proficient at it. You
Yeah.
know, nobody's going to go to that peak in Utah that you skied and skitch down that little icy patch if they're not proficient. But if he's just getting out, that's going to scare him to life. He's going to the bottom on his tail feathers, you know? And so I go on and on about so many different directions, but it's real. That aviation stuff we're doing is so much fun, and it's transcend to where we're racing our airplanes now at the Reno Air Races.
So tell us that. So I was just learning about STOL Drag, but I don't understand what that means.
Yeah. So we drag race I put on this event called the High Sierra Fly-In. You can Google that. It's this big event that centers around my birthday in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, north of Stead, about an hour. We've got 6,000 acres of dry lake bed. And I started putting on this big fly-in that's like Burning Man. It's called the High Sierra Fly-In. Well, that turned into a whole bunch of us sitting around with our airplanes going, man, we should try to race our airplanes out here. We got 4.5 miles of dry lake bed. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, I'll challenge you. We're going to go a mile down and back. Well, we started playing with distances and we came up with this 2,000 feet. A guy could have a lightweight airplane, guy could have a heavy airplane, but you ready, set, go. On your mark, get set, see ya. Down the track you go. 2,000 feet. At about 1,000 feet, you pull the power, you turn the airplane sideways in a slip, like a big air brake through the air. You're 10 feet off the ground. You're sliding towards the finish line.
Like a fishtail.
Yeah. You kick the rudder. Now you straighten it out. You land on or after. There's a white line down there at 2,000 feet. Come to a complete stop on heading. It's really quick. Spin around full power all the way back. Same rules apply. Here comes the finish line. You start sliding sideways. Trim the power, cut the road, land on or after line. First guy comes to a stop wins, and the crowd goes crazy. Aviation.
That sounds insane.
They've gone nuts.
I love it.
2019, the Reno Air Race folks came out. They saw this. They saw we had 8,000 people in the desert watching this event, watching us race.
That many.
We had close to 10 million unique subscribers and followers throughout of our social media platforms and all the pilots. And Reno said, we want you guys there. We were a demo class. We became fan favorite. They then made us the first new racing class at Reno since the jet class 20 years ago. Next thing you know, this last year, Reno says we're done. They're no longer. They're looking for a new home. But STOL Drag got a national accreditation from the FAA for us to travel around and race now. And we've been doing that for about 3 years. And we've been teamed up with the Blue Angels, which is the Navy test.
Oh, my God. Blue Angels are legendary.
Racing our airplanes. And this summer we're adding the Thunderbirds, and so whole aviation life is taking off like gangbusters. And it's
congratulations, man! I had no idea it was so insanely big now.
It's turned into a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal.
So I'm visualizing this with our listeners now because I don't know anything about planes. So you're taking off in a really short 150 feet or something like that. Yeah. And then how far off the ground are you, and how close are you to the other plane?
These guys are literally 6 to 10 feet off the ground.
Whoa.
They're about 50 feet to the guy next to them, and they're doing 150, anywhere between 80 and 150 mile an hour, depending upon the airplane, down the track. STOLDrag.com. Just Google STOL Drag, STOL Drag, but we're racing our bush planes down and back.
And when they do the fishtail, it's a jump speed so they can get to a speed that they can appropriate low speed to land. Do they kind of coordinate which way they fishtail, or they it seems like you get close to the other guy?
So, I got this, trying not to talk a whole lot about myself, but literally when STOL Drag became—
That's what we're here for.
Well, I went to the FAA during COVID and said, look, this is what I'm thinking. I was big on this proficiency currency thing, like strive for proficiency to challenge currency. So I went to the FAA and said, look, I have this course that teaches power and energy management. It teaches directional and altitude control, teaches the spot landing. It also gets into the psychological aspect of the pilot flying, because everybody nowadays, no matter where you go, has a camera and says, come on in, you can do it. Same thing correlates to skiing. You just skied something, you're with your buddy, man, I'm going to film you. Come on down. You got it. The guy jumps like, oh, I've never done this. Well, with airplanes, the same thing. So I go out and basically I'm able to teach all of these various skills, certify these pilots in STOL drag. Some fail, some show up and they don't pass the course, which means they have to come back and try again. And we use sort of that peer review type style that the military uses, to where pilots have egos, skiers have egos. They don't like to be called out. They don't want to be told what to do or shown. They want to figure it out, right? Well, when you're in a group of your peers, weakness stands out. It sticks out like a sore thumb, which is why training needs to be done. I've always been big on that whole Alaska ski guide training. It needs to be taken serious. It needs to be done with the peers. The peers need to call one another out. They need to challenge one another to all strive for proficiency, because it's not an ego in the room, but it really is. There's a whole bunch of egos and asses in there that think one's better than the other. But when you come together collectively to support one another, the whole room excels, as does each individual. And with our STOL drag training in particular, we do a style where everybody sees everybody and they watch one another. And the weaknesses stand out. And if your skill set isn't there, you don't cut the mustard with your skill set. You have to come back another day, and we remove you from the course. It's not that we dislike you. You just need to come back, because before we put you, as you asked how close you are, before we put you side by side, you need to be confident. And then also, by the guys that are certified watching the guys be trained, they build the confidence just by watching. And so, I'm big on the whole visual. You hear it verbally, but verbal is a big one. I mean, and that goes back to ski guiding. A lot of new ski guides sit there and, they talk forward and talk about what they're going to do, but they never once look back and look at the white of the eyes of the skier, because a lot of them are back there with their phones and they're dinking around and they have no idea but so again, it's the visual, you all see that, right? And the verbal, so that you capture their attention. And so I'm big with that in all forms of education, be it my football team to the pilot stuff, the ski stuff. So it all really comes back together. Collectively, it's quite the same.
You are a great educator. I feel like I'm in a class right now. I love this.
Oh gosh.
Calling all skiers and snowboarders, escape to the snowy peaks of Europe, Japan, China, or Canada with Club Med. Their more than 20 all-inclusive mountain resorts offer unparalleled convenience and endless adventures. Explore world-class ski resorts, indulge in authentic gourmet dining, and unwind with lively après-ski activities. Let Club Med take care of everything, so you can simply relax and enjoy your ski getaway. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to discover your ski paradise.
One thing I thought was cool, and if you Google Kevin, one of the things that pops up near the top is this world record water ski on Lake Tahoe. And so I didn't even really understand that was a thing. Tell us what that is and how far you went and how hard it is to do that.
Miles, that comes up in my pilot circle, and in a pilot circle, because you asked a question and something you sent over to me. One of my best flying achievements is, I got certified to fly and checked out now in a P-51 this summer, a fighter, a World War II fighter jet, which is, is that
a biplane like what you see in the air shows?
It's a P-51 Mustang is what basically is the reason why we speak English and not German. It was our fighter that saved the war in World War II and was able to overtake the air and the war for us. But I got checked out on a P-51 Mustang this summer. It's without flying a jet for the Blue Angels, the Mustang is the quintessential airplane.
Wow. Congrats.
That was a big deal for me. Yeah. But I got long-winded there on that. You asked me a question. I forgot what you asked.
It was the world record water ski on Lake Tahoe.
So in that, I know where I was going. So that stunt is frowned upon heavily in this warbird community that I'm flying.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
So you're looked upon as sort of very loose, reckless, and that's anything
loose cannon.
But my whole life has been about. And so I always tell people I have to preference that water ski story with the fact that, at the time it seemed like a really fun thing to do. I am an advocate of water skiing your airplane in the event there was an emergency and you understand how to do it. I don't encourage people to go out to do it without finding and seeking out proper training for it.
What is the emergency application of water skiing?
If I lose an engine over the mountains going from here to Sacramento, well, if I-80 is plugged and there's nowhere to land, I don't really feel comfortable landing in the big tall sticks of trees, but there's a whole bunch of lakes. And if I can glide to that lake and water ski, there might not be enough beach to land on, but I can carry enough speed on that water with the experience I have to get close enough to the shore to where that engine and those wheels, the forward momentum is going to stop on the beach to where it might save myself, might even save my airplane, rather than giving up and ditching in the woods and hoping for the best, landing on the interstate and taking out some cars or some light poles. And, it's just, what are the odds of me losing an engine over a lake?
Right.
The reality of the application is far-fetched. However, I think that it's a great application to have in your bag of tricks. And so at any rate, my buddy called me one morning because he knew that we all water skied our airplane, and he just so happened to have a helicopter with a Tyler mount and a red camera out, which is that's the best out there.
Yeah.
Heat tracking the whole deal. He says, hey, I'd love to capture some air to air with you over Lake Tahoe. There was no talk of water skiing. And I told a few other people to come meet up. And so at any rate, we get over the top of 267 and we're dropping into Kings Beach. And hey, you guys get down low on the water. It'd make for a great shot. And next thing you know, he says, hey, you want to just touch your tires or do any sort of skiing for a minute? I see you guys do that. Man, that looked really cool. And I'm thinking, well, he's got the red camera. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. At this point, we're about pretty much, we've rounded the corner and we're just right in front of the Biltmore, that point and incline. And
on the North Shore?
Yeah, making the hard left turn there into incline. And so I get down on the water, and the next thing you know, the cameraman's losing his mind. And he's, oh my God, this is incredible. Hold it there. The sun's coming, because it was early in the morning. The sun's coming over the ridge. And as I make the water, 500, 600 feet offshore on the water, going in front of incline. Now I'm making that right turn, going down towards Sand Harbor. And
you're turning and still water skiing.
You're still in the water.
How fast are you going?
Right around 55, 60 miles an hour, 2 notches of flaps. So you get about Sand Harbor and he's freaking out. Airplanes are flying around me. You can see that footage. And I think, God, this is pretty cool. I'm going to go to the end of the lake. I wonder if anybody's ever skied to the end of the lake. So I from one end to the other is about a 25-minute run. At this point, I'm almost halfway anyway. I see Spooner. I'm like, I can make it. So I get to the far end of the lake down now, I'm like South Shore, almost Tahoe Keys area, making that slow, perfect turn around the beach, coming up, Pope Beach, Baldwin Beach. Here comes Emerald Bay. I'm like, I think I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to see if I can make it to, let's go to Meeks, or let's go to Emerald Bay. So I go to past Emerald Bay, and it's dead glass, calm. You can see by the water.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it was just increments. And at this time, my buddies were like, Quinter, you just got to go around the lake. Just
do a lap.
And so 57 minutes, I did the circumference of Lake Tahoe.
57 minutes.
With my airplane doing 60 miles an hour. Tires never left the water, just skimming across. And so next thing you know, Guinness calls it a world record. So I'm a world record water ski holder.
Wow. Everything had to be perfect for that. You guys got to be so glassy.
Stunt. Don't go do that. I cringe when people see it now because, it's pretty cool, but it's pretty dumb, Everybody plays the what if game. What if your engine quits? Well, what if lightning strikes in a rainstorm? Everybody's got their own risk.
A little camera courage, and nothing's better than the red camera courage. But I am curious, how hard is it to do that? Like, is only high level pilots, I assume, can water ski their airplane?
Again, it's not something I would ever encourage, and I tell people they got to seek out the proper training. However, it's one of the easier things to do. You get in. Think about it, like if you were to jump out of a boat and it's not moving, you're going to sink, right?
Right.
Well, if you jump out of a boat doing 50 miles an hour, you're going to skip. You're not going to sink. You're going to skip.
Yeah.
And so think about a water skier behind a boat doing 45 miles an hour on his bare feet. He's hanging onto a pole. Well, now you put on a 35-inch tire with a 14-inch circumference across the bottom. I mean, it's inflated. I mean, it's just like landing it. It feels like you're skimming on a bunch of pillows. It's really simple. You can also feel the airspeed come down. You can feel the tail drop as an experienced flyer. You know that you don't want to hit your tail because you're going to stop really quick and bad things can happen.
Oh yeah.
And so you got to be cognizant of your airspeed, and it's very straightforward. It's actually a technique to get into short beaches and get off short beaches. You can get down on the river to get into a sandbar.
Yeah.
If you need to get into a short spot on a lake and drop off a bunch of people somewhere, drop off gear, whatever, you get in, use it to get on the beach, drop off all your gear and get out. If you get to the right airspeed, you can also use water to lengthen your strip to take off as well, because again, you're skimming, you're not sinking.
Well, even though you cringe about it, I do encourage our listeners to check that out and check out all Kevin's videos, because it doesn't look easy to me. And my first time in Alaska was in 2006. I had a guide job up there at St. Elias National Park, Wrangell St. Elias National Park. And I think I did 50 flight Cs, because know Wrangell Mountain Air and Kelly and all them. They would let us.
Paul Klaus and Wrangell Mountain Air.
Yeah, I've flown with Paul Klaus too.
Yeah.
He didn't really like me though, but but maybe he doesn't like anybody. But he
doesn't like you because you want to go land in silly places.
Yeah, it was funny. So we were flying out with him, my first ever fly ski trip, and so he's like, Paul's like, well, where do you guys want to go? And I said, well, this is this little zone we wanted to go. And he said, no, I'm saving that for myself. Like, all right, where else would you want to go? So how about this? This is our plan B. He's like, no, I'm saving that one too. All right, Paul. Well, where should we go? Where can we go? I was like, I'll drop you over. I call this Mount Tokyo. You're gonna love it, and we did. It was incredible. But I was trying to. Oh yeah, he's a nut, man. He's but an incredible pilot. But I got about 50 flight Cs that summer because Wrangell Mountain Air let us go, because I was working for St. Elias Alpine Guides if they had an empty spot. And what these, like you're included in this, where they can land those planes. People go river rafting and then they land the plane on the gravel bed side of the river, throw all the stuff in and fly you back to where you started. So that's
access. I call that access. We have such good access here. It's the same thing. We land in these little tiny places, and the access that we have is unbelievable.
And a hell of a lot cheaper than a helicopter, right?
Oh, 100 times cheaper.
More range and all that. Did you do big flights? Do you guys go to Mexico, do stuff like that?
Yeah, we do big flights, in the 180, which is the 4-seater, and you can carry 1,200 pounds of gear, and you get somewhere doing 140 miles an hour. That's the travel plane. Mm-hmm. And the Cup cruises around at 80 miles an hour, but it also flies at 25 miles an hour.
That's nuts.
And little 2-seater, and that's sort of the motorcycle. And I have a biplane, a Stearman biplane, which is a World War II trainer, which is all of our aviators that flew in World War II started in a Stearman. And I give rides in that Stearman, and people see me doing loops over Tahoe. And I ask people when they give them a ride in a Stearman, you got to come actually and give them a parachute, like roller coasters. We go do loop-de-loops and all that kind of stuff out there.
Well, and thanks again for you. You took me out one time with Jackie Peso, and we flew around Tahoe, and it blew my mind, man.
Well, that was a long time ago.
It was, yeah. I wonder, because back when Jackie still lived in Tahoe, it was a long time ago.
So you got to come in the Stearman, the open cockpit stuff.
Oh, I'm ready, hand up, ready to roll, man. And so I am curious too about, risk is such a big part of your life and who you are and what you've done with the heli ski operation, with being a guide, with being a STOL pilot. So how do you mitigate risk in the heli skiing and STOL flying worlds?
I think risk assessment is critical. Risk hazard and risk management is kind of my life, literally. Mm-hmm. And teaching people about hazard management and risk analysis. Somebody once told me, if you can't do it 10,000 times in a row safely, is it worth doing it?
Ooh.
And, if you can't, can you do it 10,000 times in a row? Might not be able to do it 10,000 times in a row. So you got a big risk, and what is that risk? How big is the risk? Is that risk life threatening? And a lot of people are more comfortable with risk than others, at all mm-hmm. levels of risk. I mean, I'm no Alex Honnold. Think about climbing El Cap with no rope.
Oh, yeah. His risk tolerance is how I say it. Yeah, his risk tolerance is so high.
It's huge. It's huge. And the older I get, sometimes I feel like my dad, because it's only if I only know now back then, what I know now back then, right? But we did a lot of crazy, silly things. And you think about, Jesus criminy, shimmying out on the Golden Gate Bridge with Dano and Jimbo and Kreitler and our whole crew in black face paint during the time they retired Joe Montana's jersey out on the Golden Gate Bridge to go bungee jump it, but we're not on ropes, and we're just hanging out over the guardrail, going out to the center underneath, and all these suicide crisis hotline signs.
Oh,
you would have thought we were terrorists nowadays, but you think about the risk just going out there to.
And did you bungee jump the Golden Gate?
Oh, yeah, we all bungee. The night they retired Joe Montana's jersey.
What year was that? I don't remember.
Oh man! Well, when did Joe Montana retire? That was the year, because all the security guards, as you went onto the deck up top, they were all watching.
90s for sure, right?
Early 90s.
Yeah, I would say like 92, 93.
Yeah, and then being part of that whole thing with Dano and Miles and Kidder and all those guys in the park with the rope flying and flossing the sky stuff when Dano passed. I mean, what's risk, right?
Whoa, were you guys doing that as well? Because you guys were jumping off El Cap with climbing ropes, right? And doing these big pendulums.
Leaning tower. The rostrum and leaning tower. Dano was sort of the inventor of all that.
And you did that with him.
Oh yeah.
And Dano is Dan Osmond, correct?
Dan Osmond, yep. Kidder, Miles, Jimbo, MC. There was a big whole crew. Morrison was part of that group, both Morrisons.
And when Dan Osmond's rope broke, were you there? What happened?
I was not there. That happened about 5 days after we were all there. 2 weeks after, I guess now, because Dano, the park and all the officials were really frowning upon the whole Tyrolean traverse from Leaning Tower to Fifi Buttress across. Mm-hmm. And they were, what Dano was doing jumping off wasn't considered what the park rangers considered climbing. And so they were doing their best to shut that whole thing down. And Dano was in bed with, everybody in the park that were all the hardcore climbers. So they all supported him. But the park ended up arresting him. He sat in jail for a few days. The cords ropes hung in the weather for a while. And Dano wanted to go out and set a big record. And he jumped in a little different direction. And the rope broke. And that's ultimately was his demise. But we were all a big part of that.
Wow, I had no idea, Quinner. You have done so much.
Well, again,
You've lived a lot of different lives, man.
Miles, that was that house in Squaw. I think, that was probably close to the time. Well, that was when you and I met, we all met on the beach in Cabo. You remember that? We were doing those stupid little 360s off the sand dune.
That's right. Jeez,
and you were like, "Hey, you guys skiers?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So we're jumping off that little hillside doing 360s in the sand like little goobers. Remember that?
God damn, that was a long time ago. What year was that?
A long time ago, man. Jess and I had just started dating, I don't think we were married then yet. We dated for 10 years.
Early 2000s or something.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that. Thank you. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow, man, you've lived a lot of lives. I love that you got the STOL pilot, heli guiding, heli operation,
so much
hockey. I didn't know you were also a climber. Jeez, man.
I'm not a climber. No,
you're a rope manipulator.
Well, that's just all of our ski guide stuff. Dave Nettle put on all those courses.
Oh, Dave Nettle's a legend.
Our heli ski guide rope stuff, and of course. What started Points North, I was rafting, doing a whole bunch of whitewater rafting and river trips in Alaska, float fishing trips.
Wow.
And whitewater was a big part of. And then, of course, you go through all the various rope courses in to be raft guides so that you can create various.
You're also a raft guide.
That's what created Points North. And,
interesting.
And so one thing led to another, and we just started upscaling all of our credentials with as far as rope works and rigging for rope rescue and all that for Alaska, because we had an incident. Well, man, I think our 6th year, something like that, where a guy fell 300 feet into the glacier. And after that, I was like, we're diving in. We're calling Nettle. We're going full tilt with all of our ropes for rescue, and we're streamlining everything so it's all the same. Because before that, all heli ski guides, it was. You show up, you look like the guy from a Western movie, right? And you sound like ching, ching, all your buckles and freaking ice screws and carabiners. You got ropes that dangle to your knees. And the more stuff you had on your side, throw a cheese grater out, the more stuff you had on your side, man, you must be really a good heli ski guide.
Yeah, I love it.
What we realized in our emergency is that all of our Billy Badass material that hung off all of our harnesses and our ice screws dangling, and it didn't marry, and it wasn't symbiotic to what everybody else carried. And I know that going to various different ski meetings and guide trainings throughout your career, who has their act together and who doesn't. And there's those that'll put on a demonstration and kind of show you. And then there's those that will put everything together with what everybody has in the room and does it work together. And then you go forth and do that and have some quality training. And then there's the group that has everything in the room that's the exact same, and it all marries. And we, after our fatality, that was something we were really big on, is streamlining all of the kits in Alaska and all heli ski guides basically in Alaska. The way we're skiing is to try to unify what everybody was utilizing in our kits and really pushing the mechanized side that we could carry a little more. We're not ski mountaineers, and you don't need this little, you're not making V threads and you can carry a little extra gear, because of the weight factor. And I mean, I can pick up a guide pack and tell whether a guy's provided is, if he's filling his pack right or not, and these, as we're all streamlining, and it's funny how the season starts and you got a whole lot of stuff, and come spring, that pack's real.
Well, people start pulling out the sleds, right? Yeah. It's,
right? Right. But again, it's like, I mean, man, it's not a matter of if, but when. And when is a very big deal. And when has happened in Alaska a few times. There's some big things going on in Alaska right now that we don't need to talk about on this podcast that have happened with helicopter crashes and guide deaths. And there's a lot going on in Alaska right now that, because of protocols not being adhered to, maybe not, who knows, that'll all come out, we'll decide. But you got to have your stuff together, because it's not a matter of if, but when, and when will happen eventually to everyone. And it happened to us, man. And we got so lucky, and we learned a lot by it. And we're no better than anybody else, because when will probably happen to us again. And when it does, we better have our shit together.
Absolutely. And I do like that idea. I mean, that would be a great program for all kinds of different guide services moving forward. And I know it would be too expensive maybe, but sometimes they can get sponsors. But if everybody had the same kit, which is what you're saying, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, all right, we all have 2 tib locks, and we have a cordelette that's this long, and we have this rope, and we have a rad line, and all this gear. And if it was all standardized, because of course that's the way it goes. And especially when you, like in Antarctica, there's 26 different guides from 14 different countries. And but that is interesting, because a lot of times
we all work around one another to where, I mean, heaven forbid, but when something bad happens, be it, a major scenario, be it with a helicopter or a massive avalanche or huge ice or something, we all have to marry each other's tools. They need to be able to work. And it can't be, I don't have this or that. Everybody has the same thing, and it's just, there's so much more that can go into depth on that, but I think it's a big deal. I think it's a great opportunity to enhance the overall safety of everybody.
Well, I like the evolution we just went through there, the spectrum of it's awesome and gnarly and exciting, and ending on safety, because that's the only way we can do this. And that's the only way we can take people out into these mountains and show them all this, is to have that just bulletproof safety, being mitigating the danger as best we can. And so I think it's a cool way to kind of end this heli part of it. And we usually do the rapid fire in the beginning, but since we skipped it because you were storytelling so well, I don't want to interrupt. I'd love to hit a couple of these rapid fires, because it sounds like you did.
Fire away.
So let's hit the first one here, which I'll just say, what would be your biggest accomplishment in skiing?
I think the biggest accomplishment in skiing would be Points North, and turning on thousands of skiers to the best days of their life.
Thousands. And what do you think is your biggest accomplishment in flying?
Biggest flying accomplishment in flying is, there's been a couple, but getting checked out in a P-51 Mustang this past summer.
Congrats.
Going through Stallion 51's flight training school, which is a military program, spending a week with those guys.
Wow.
Getting 20 hours into the P-51 with 40 hours of ground school, and that intensive training to come out of there as their, in 40 years, their 225th graduate was a big deal for me. That brought tears to my eyes, which my dad was around.
225 in 40 years.
40 years, yeah.
Wow, congrats, man.
So flying the P-51 is a big one. Flying Warbirds, I feel extremely, grateful to. But then also being able to teach and train so many pilots in the off airport and keeping them safe. That's I mean, every time I get a new pilot and he tells me that, God, that was the best fly day of my life. I'm like, yeah, that's what you said yesterday. Good luck. Have fun tomorrow. Kind of like that was skiing. My God, that was the best ski day of my life. That's what you said about yesterday. Wait till tomorrow.
Oh man, I do want to get into it at some point, Quinter, and I'll tap your shoulder. Biggest accomplishment in your life?
Having kids and having a family.
How do you define yourself?
Extremely passionate, extremely motivated on certain days, extremely unmotivated on others.
Balance. Where's your favorite place to ski?
Favorite place to ski, of course, is Alaska. But if you break it down, I mean, it's always going to be Squaw Valley, USA for me, KT.
Woo! How about your favorite mountain ranges, if you could name a couple?
Chugach. There's none like Chugach. Sierras are pretty special as well, but I love the Chugach, love the Wasatch, but I love the Chugach. There is no place in the world like the Chugach. I mean, the Chilcats come right in there. Juneau Ice Cap is close behind, but I mean, the Chugach is Mecca. It is. If you were a skier and if you died and went to heaven, you'd wake up in the Chugach. There's no place on the planet like the Chugach. The snow sticks to places that you can only dream about. The snow is perfect generally, except when we have these crazy wind events. But when it's on and it's that day that that you've had yourself, those days when there's no wind, it's crystals floating in the air like magic fairies and the lights low in the sky, and you're out there with your best friends and it's knee deep, because we don't get waist deep days in Alaska very often, but you get a lot of shin knee deep perfection, and you can ski the steepest thing you can possibly imagine. There's no place like it on the planet, like nowhere.
Without going too far on this tangent, can you tell us a little bit about the Alaska snowpack? Like Dan Van calls it gets shrink wrapped.
It really does. I mean, that warm Japanese air comes across that cold Gulf of Alaska ocean water, and it just comes into those glaciers and those winds that are so rampant in the Chugach. It dries that snow out, and people think, well, man, coming off the coast, it's maritime, must be heavy and wet, but it's magic fairy dust. There's just no place like it on the planet. It snows 3 feet one night, and you're out there and you're in thigh-deep snow. The next day, you're in boot top perfection. There's not an avalanche in sight. The snowpack's stable, and your mind is blown. I mean, you can go out and you can see it snow 25 feet. I mean, all reality, you sit through a week-long storm, it just snowed 5, 6, 8, 10 feet in the mountains. And you're like, oh my God, I call it cowboys and Indians. We're going to go around that corner. We're going to be the cowboys firing the pistols in the air. Yeah, here we come. The Indian's out there sharpening his arrow, beating his drum. And what are we going to find? We go out there, we're going to be cowboys firing on all cylinders. There's not an avalanche in sight. Or we're going to go around that corner and that Indian's been sharpening his arrow, balancing his drum, because on every aspect you see huge slab avalanches. And so every day is different. And those days when you go out and you see that latter half and the Indians out there waiting for you, the hair standing up on the back of your neck, you've got a pit in your stomach. You're like, I don't know how steep a skiing we're going to be on today. Our ski just changed the choices, because anytime you go to make a plan, I'm going to go ski this and go, the reality is the plan never works. The wind is always blowing a different direction, and the snow is terrible in that spot. And that's Alaska, man. Cowboys and Indians, it's like that every day.
Well, as the great American philosopher Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until he gets punched in the face.
Exactly.
Oh.
Like that.
So what scares you most in the mountains?
Avalanches.
What do you love most about the mountains?
Everything. Atmosphere, the energy, the everything about it, the feeling you get, the energy that you get from it, just everything about the mountains. They talk to you if you stop long enough to listen to them.
What might be the funniest or a funny story, a funny accident you've had in the mountains?
How bad you want to go?
I want to go all the way. 10 bad. 10 out of 10 bad.
Oh man, I know a guy that had a bowel movement on the glacier getting into a helicopter.
No.
Yeah, and so that was a pretty funny moment. Not one that I care to really continue on with. Funny moments. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy different moments. I can't think of anything in particular that's super funny, except when you come home and you see a whole bunch of people coming down the hill on snowblades.
Oh, I love, yeah, that sounds like Palisades, Tahoe, Squaw Valley, where we're from. I also, Quitter, I remember a day that you pooed off the chairlift, Olympic lady. Is that true?
Oh, I try not to talk about that.
Well, they have to now.
I just thought about that before you said that. I was like, I can't share that story.
Yeah, that's the only problem, right? I got the local
Miles,
knowledge.
the KT, that's like an all-time embarrassing story. But that's the old KT line where the line is, I mean, this is pre-Palisades days. The line's still long. I mean, nothing's changed. We always have long lines. KT, what else are you going to do? Stand in line, say, ski KT. And I'm up towards the front. Like, things are good. It's like a 10 o'clock opening day. Bombs are going off. Patrol's doing laps. Life is good. I feel this little gurgle in my stomach. I'm like, man, I don't think I have time to run into Dave's real quick to go to the bathroom because I think the chair's going to start going. We're going to load. I just can't go now. I got to hang out. Well, another half hour goes by. One of those days, patrol's done 20 laps. And 25 more bombs go off, and we're still sitting there. The crowd's even longer. My tummy's just like, God, I could have gone to the bathroom 10 times by now. I know it's going to turn, so you're just not going to get out of that chair. So we get on KT, we go, everything's good, and it goes away. And I think I'm with Court Levy that day, and we take a left turn. We decide to go left towards Ole because at this point, everything to the right skied. We're not going to win the race.
The Ole lady chairlift.
We're like 40 chairs back from the first chair. So like, okay, we'll go left. So we go towards Ole lady. And we ski that Ole, we call the MC line where MC's tree is, and down that way, down to the bottom of Ole chair. They just start turning Ole chair, and there's not a soul there. I'm like, let's get in this line real quick because we know KT. So we jump into that line real quick, and they load us. We get loaded, and about a quarter of the way up, my tummy starts feeling weird.
Oof.
Like really weird, and they start doing their button checks.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, chair stopped. What's going on? Like, this could be bad. Hey, Court, I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, what are you going to do? Like, well, it gets to the point, Miles, to make a long story short, I got to jump. Things are going south. I got to jump. Court's rolling at this point. He's like, you can't jump. I'm like, I got to jump. He's like, you can't jump. Dude, if I don't jump, I'm going to shit myself. No, you got to jump. I can't jump. Hold my poles, Court. I'm jumping. No, you can't jump. He's like, then I'm going right here. And so I turn my shoulder. This is a horrible, you might as well hear a story. So I look over to the bathroom. I love it. Clients of mine that are point store clients behind. And I said, I am so sorry, but if I don't do this, I'm going to shit myself and I can't jump. And they start laughing and Court's crying hysterically. And so I just pull it all down and I grab the bar and cinch back up onto the top of the chair. And
not easy to do.
At this point, Court's about ready to fall out of the chair because he's laughing so hard. And I hear this lady 4 chairs back. Oh my God, he's really doing it. And so button checks continue. We finally get to Ole, and I've done my business. I run down the Ole Ridge line and go clean myself up in the woods, but changed my jacket, came back. But that was one of life's most embarrassing stories. Now the whole world knows about it. Thanks, Miles.
I'm so happy that we got to air that out right here, right now. Yeah, I want to say it was like one of the big years too, like 2011 or something. And
it was a big year.
Yeah, of course that story went around like wildfire that day.
Well, we won't talk about all the skiers coming down into the fresh.
Oh no, there's a bomb in there. Oh,
we won't talk about that.
Oh no need. Oh my gosh. Well, my next question goes the exact opposite direction. Or what's the scariest accident you've had in the mountains?
Scariest accident that we've had a handful. We had of course we had that one that went 300 feet and perished. So 25 years ago, our third, fourth year of business. That was a big deal. But we had a lady do a double tib fib fracture, boot top on both sides. Hit a piece of ice underneath pal and broke double tib fib top.
Oh God, that could be anybody.
That was a big one. I saw Jess, my own wife, while she was filming, and I was taking pictures of her with the still camera from the bottom. And I saw her get sloughed and get a pretty good avalanche. I watched Ben Dolan go down Sphinx backwards.
You told that story, God. With what did you call it? That ejector seat moment?
Yeah, that was a big one. I mean, there's been a bunch.
And how many friends have you lost in the mountains?
That's crazy you say that because if anybody's ever been to my hangar on my refrigerator, I have a Sharpie. And they get penned in a Sharpie. Then I have this list I looked at the other day, and I bet there's 50 names on that list.
50.
Yeah. Just down that
Wow.
side. It's crazy, Miles. The older we get, the more we lose. And
Oh,
Olympic Valley went through some hard times there
oh man.
years ago where there were multiples every year. Like,
Oh, it's terrible.
and as of late, there's been a handful, I mean, even
Yeah.
with most recently Rob, there's as of late, there's been a handful that just, the older we get, the harder it gets, I guess. We're
Oh,
lucky.
it's brutal. I just lost a friend in Telluride 2 weeks ago. It's just Alaska friend. It's just brutal,
Yeah.
man. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's like, it's something,
what we're talking about. We got to live each day to the fullest.
well, it's just something that we don't talk about enough in the mountains is this other side of it, right? That we do lose friends out here. It has meaning. We learn from it and we're better because of it. And so I think that there is a full circle there, but if we don't talk about it, I don't think we're going to learn from it and we're not going to get better for it.
And share those experiences with others, because they can learn too.
Absolutely. How many avalanches have you been in?
Honestly, personally, I haven't been in, I knock on wood when I say this, but I haven't been in any real big avalanches. And I pride myself on that. I've kicked off some big avalanches. I mean, there's nothing like going out and, making a big ski cut and filling up the glacier with the Empire State Building. I mean, there's just talk about nature at its finest. Putting yourself on a rope when you're really spooked and it worked out because you just cut off a 5-foot slab that ran 150 foot wide, and you fill up the glacier. Not that that's happened too many times, but I can think of a few times where I've been on a rope trying to cut a big cornice and this whole thing lets loose left and right. And you feel the suck and you're like,
Whoa.
Man, thank God I was on a rope. And, I hate any more so the older I got, I hated doing the film crew stuff because as a ski guide and for whatever reason, I guess you always throw it back to the experience. I was the one of that would get those film crews. And you don't do a lot of skiing with film crews. And I think I genuinely can say that I think I have a little PTSD from that as well, for the sake that you're out there playing lifeguard, chewing your fingernails off. These athletes, they ski stuff anymore. Some of these, especially these European snowboarders, that
really?
I found that some of these European snowboarders that hang out with the Jerome Rubies and ski the north face of the Aguille in the springtime.
Alaska's just a powder day to them.
It is, and the stuff they want to ski, you almost want to get picked up on the top.
Yeah.
And even anymore, we start thinking like, I'm not an asset on the top. I might be able to get him in. But I need to get picked up and I need to ride in the front seat so I can watch him, so I can be spot on, because he's not going to fall and stop in the middle. He's going to the bottom.
Oof, yeah.
So that way I'm there. So I don't have to ski above him because there's really no safe ways down. I don't have to expose myself. It's a quicker ride in that helicopter to the bottom. I found myself sitting in the front seat of an aircraft a lot.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, you just stay in the heli.
Yeah.
God, intense, man.
Yeah, intense.
And have you ever been hurt while skiing?
I did my ACL about 10 years ago on a ski trip with Juno, taking a picture for Court Levy, just doing a simple schmear turn, and did my right ACL. God, that's the only significant ski injury I've really had.
That's kind of incredible considering how long you've been doing in this game. And
I feel lucky, it goes back to trying to stay sort of fit. And my wife, Jess, is the fittest thing I know. Today was her first day back at Alpine, and 9 months ago she had new ACL and plugs in her meniscus. And so she's stoked to be back on skis. I cringe for anybody that goes through that. It's just a rough recovery.
Oh, I've only done it once, but I did not enjoy it at all. It was a whole, I'm a different person since then, honestly.
Every skier does it,
You got to do it.
You're getting 300 days. I'm lucky if I get my 125, 150 days a year. That's realistic. And
it's called being a normal human being. Yeah.
Got to stay injury free.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite ski movie? I think you said before, actually.
Carving the White, License to Thrill. I got License to Thrill.
Nice. I like that, man. What challenges you intellectually the most on a daily basis?
My daughter.
Yeah? Tell me.
My daughter and my wife.
Yeah, good. They got you working.
Kinley's so smart, and she's incredibly talented, proud papa, obviously, but I mean, 13 years old, and she's so quick-witted, and she challenges me on a daily basis. I mean, she's very inquisitive, and it's the question and answer all the time, 24/7.
That's a really good sign. And I was just talking to Andrew McLean on the phone right before our podcast, who we've had on this podcast. He's a legendary skier like
Andrew.
you. And yeah, we're all buddies. And he wanted me to, he said, so Kinley's middle name is Drake. Could you tell us that quick story?
Well, yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do on the Drake Passage when you go to Alaska? And so
Antarctica.
Yeah, when we were going to Antarctica back, however many years ago, 14 years ago, we were on the Drake, and it was the Shake at that time. It wasn't the lake, so we're all lumbered down in our cabins. And of course, what else are you going to do when you're hunkered down for 4 days in a cabin in big seas with your wife? And so we actually credit, because the Drake, for those of you that don't know, listening, the Drake Passage is between Cape Horn, South Africa, and it's the passage that takes you to Antarctica, and you have to cross the Roaring Forties, you cross the Antarctic Convergence, but the Drake is the Roaring Forties, roughest seas in the world. Mm-hmm. And you can either get the lake where it's flat calm, which we've had, and we've had a party going across. It's been incredible. And we've had the Shake, which, on a Beaufort scale of 1 to 12, we've had 12s going across it once, and it was crazy and terrifying. But we credit that Drake personality to Kinley's personality. It's a raging, roaring fire. She's going to do good in something she does.
I love it. Conceived in the Drake Passage. He said South Africa, but he meant South America.
South America, yeah.
Cape Horn. But so what do you think? What's your favorite book or favorite books?
I've never been a big book reader. I read lots of magazines. I'm big on the visual and create my own story by looking at that.
Well, let's shift gear. What about your favorite magazines?
Our magazine, man. Come on back.
Please.
Oh, I read a lot of aviation magazines. I read a lot of ski magazines. I mean, it seems like print is so outdated anymore. It's cool to see Powder coming back.
I'm glad.
And we're friends with all of those guys, and I think that whole crew's still intact, so to speak. So that would be cool.
Who has inspired you the most in your life?
Who's inspired me the most? I find inspiration on a daily basis from my wife. She's so motivated. I find inspiration on my exploits through those that I look up to in life. If it's the pilot life in particular, I look at the Hinton family down in Chino. They're some of the best pilots in the world, flying some of the best warbirds and planes.
Chino, California.
Planes of Fame Air Museum. And ski wise, there was so many growing up. I did all of my ski school P.S.I.A stuff through Stu Campbell, who wrote the ATM American Teaching Model.
Wow.
And I did my tutelage under him. I look at skiers, like, why did we come to Squaw Valley? Well, because of Scott Schmidt, of course, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of depends on what aspect of what activity I'm involving myself in is who I look upon,
Well, thanks for sharing that. I love to hear where people find inspiration and who they find it from.
I find inspiration on a daily basis from anybody and everybody. I mean, my U10 football team, I had a kid named Jordy, and he's about 75 pounds overweight.
Mm-hmm.
Showed up the first day of football practice. He couldn't run 10 feet.
Oh, wow.
At the end of the year, he could run all of the drills and all the conditioning drills through practice, and he'd lost about 35 pounds.
Wow.
3 weeks ago, I said, you lose 50 pounds between now and football next August 1st, I'll give you $1,000.
That's
awesome. Two of the other coaches were like, yeah, I got that too. And we were all by Jordy's motivation, I find a lot of motivation in that.
That is what inspires me, is stories like Jordy's.
100%, and then you see people. It drives me nuts when I go and I see somebody parked in a handicapped spot, but then you look and you see somebody like a Trevor Kinnison pull in, or Roy 5.5s that actually needs those spots, but they're out there every day doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I find inspiration from those guys big time.
Absolutely. What's next? What's next for you and your journey, Kevin?
We're full Team Quinn right now, with Kinley being second year U14, one of the fast U14 second year girls,
which is ski racing.
Ski racing, yeah. And so we're we're just big into that. I'm helping coach for her team with Mike Savage, her private coach, and just we're full on just into skiing right now, raising family, getting Cashman skiing a ton, skiing with Jess a bunch, and just here we are for winter time now. So our day to day, every day is waking up and where are we going skiing every single day.
Well, I'm living in the Valley this winter, so I'll definitely be bugging you, man. I'd love to ski with you guys.
Oh, I love seeing you out there, Miles, and it'd be awesome. I can't wait. We just need some snow, man.
Yeah, we do. So what is it? What is today? Today's December 1st, and we've got a couple, fake snow runs open, but we need a big, and it only takes one in the Sierra. It can only take one.
We just need a little bit. We got 2-3 inches last night. We're supposed to get another couple tonight, tomorrow night. Give us a little snow. It'll happen.
Yeah, I just want to.
We're all coming off, we're all hungover from last season. We stopped skiing in August.
It's hard.
Still going.
It's hard to bitch though, honestly. Like, right? Like it's a slow start to the season, and I feel no amount of complaint in my body. Just like, God, I'm still buzzing off of last year.
We still need the surf trip. That's a whole nother aspect that sand and surf. The older I get, boy, that sure is nice.
Well, let's just cover that really quick because I in my mind, I'm a huge surfer, but I only surf like 2 or 3 months a year tops. But it means a lot to me and who I am, and I really identify it. I just got my wedding ring made, and it's half waves and half mountains because that's how I think of myself. I know I'm not as balanced as that. But tell me just a little bit about your surfing. Where do you go? What do you like? Longboard.
We've had a house North Shore of Kauai, just north of Honolulu, for about 10 years now.
I didn't know that, you bastard.
That's our spot right now. Tunnels is like our home break right in front, world-class surf wave.
That's a heavy wave, man.
We spent a ton of time in Honolulu Bay surfing middles,
Legendary.
and or the bowl or first peak. That whole, the bay, just depending upon swell direction. But I like to say we're surfers as well. We're skiers, we're mountain folk that we go there and surf. But God, we spend so much time there. I got a really cool trip from, the group Heli, Heli. They actually just bought Silverton. And then
that's who bought it. Oh,
yeah. And they bought, what did they buy? Eagle Pass, I think, is the other.
Really? Up in British Columbia.
I believe that's what it is. And is it Eagle Pass or Great Canadian? But they bought one of the heli ski operations there in British Columbia. But anyway, Heli was one of our clients at P&H, and they took me to the Slater Surf Ranch down in.
Oh, you're killing me. I remember that when you went.
Central California. It was all time. So that one day was like 10 years of surfing. And I credit that place to really changing my entire surf.
Ooh.
Where now we surf, man. Now we go on the 20-minute paddles to the outer reef.
Thank you so much for listening to the Snowbrains podcast. If you liked this podcast, please share with your friends and family, and please subscribe. To find out more about Snowbrains, please visit us at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Snowbrains.
Ditch the hassle and embrace the freedom of an all-inclusive ski vacation with Club Med. Their resorts in the European Alps and Canada offer the perfect blend of exhilarating skiing, exceptional service, and worry-free pampering. Enjoy having lift tickets, delicious meals, lessons for all ages, and endless après-ski fun, all included in one price. While the kids are having a blast at the supervised children's clubs, you can focus on mastering your skiing skills and creating unforgettable memories on and off the slopes. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to experience skiing without limits. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast was edited by Jared White and Ben Hout. Music by Chad Crouch. I'm your host, producer, and creator, Miles Clark.